So I wanted to come on here and share my experience with having to go to the hospital. If you're new here, I'm Nickie. I'm a homeschool mom, and this is not going to be homeschool content today, more of a personal type of update. So if that is something you're interested in, keep listening. So Memorial weekend Friday, I had a good day. I got a bunch of stuff accomplished, and then the next thing I know, I started having like low abdomen pain, and it was kind of intense. And so I immediately went and took like a Tylenol, thinking, oh, maybe I'm cramping. My cycle shouldn't be anytime soon, but I'm just gonna go ahead and take this Tylenol. And immediately went upstairs, laid down, and I was trying to like lay on my stomach so that, you know, you think you can like alleviate the pain, but it wasn't alleviating. And so by the time I went to go to the bathroom thinking, you know, maybe that's what I have to do, and came out, and the pain had within minutes had spread from my abdomen up like my side, my left side, and my back, and I could barely function. I was just in a lot of pain, and it was actually causing me to feel like I couldn't breathe. And I went to my mom, and I was like, Mom, like, you have to take me. This is not normal. Like, I don't feel good at all. Like, I'm in a lot of pain. And it was so like out of nowhere. So I got in the car, my daughter got in the car, and my mom was like locking up and got in my car. And I was like doubled over. I was crying. I was in so much freaking pain, like worst pain I've ever felt in my life. And my daughter's like, hurry, hurry, hurry. And like, I could not breathe. Like, I could not catch a good enough breath. So she panicked, and she's like, screw this. Like, I'm calling 911. And I was like, no, I can't afford 911. And she's like, I don't care. Like, this is more important. So they're literally across the street from us, so it took them like less than a minute to get to me, literally. Like, it was extremely fast, which, you know, grateful. But immediately I was like embarrassed, and just like, I've never been in an ambulance. I've never had all these firemen and EMT around me. I looked like a freaking trash can. Like, I had no makeup. I was in just like crappy clothes, and they were like men out of a freaking fiction novel. I'm not even kidding. Very intimidating, and like, I was like, oh my God, I'm married. It's not like I'd be like hitting on the firemen, but it was just uncomfortable. Anyway, so they want me to go in the ambulance to like check me out. So they had me on the stretcher, took me away, and all I remember thinking is, oh my God, my daughter, because my daughter has suffered from anxiety and separation anxiety from losing her great grandmother in in the same house. So like, she doesn't really remember that because she was 3, so, but her brain did, and so she latched on, and it caused a bunch of anxiety. And so I was like, oh my God, I don't know what's happening. I'm in a lot of pain. I'm going by ambulance. I'm like, can you please have my daughter come with me? And like, you know, at the time, like, I wasn't really thinking of anything other than like, I am this woman, right? And I felt like they weren't going to believe me. They weren't going to believe the amount of pain I'm in, because, you know, I've had chronic pain in my life, and like, people will diminish that, or think you're just lazy, or think you're just like over exaggerating. And so I honestly just did not think they were going to believe me. So I'm like trying to tell them like this is the most pain I've ever been in my life. I've had a kid, like this is not anything I have ever dealt with. And they're asking me questions, you know, shooting it home, like, oh, is it a chance you could be pregnant? And like I had to say no, obviously. I went through fertility as well, so that was unsuccessful, and that just kind of hit home as well during this process. Oh my god, freaking cicadas. Anyways, I'm in my car, sorry. But anyway, so after they basically was able to tell that this was not like a cardiac event, they're like, well, we're gonna take you to the hospital. And I'm like, okay. I had to sign off on this thing. Well, I thought they were gonna go like see if my daughter could come with me, and they never basically left the vehicle, even though I thought they did, to ask his partner, he said. And he's like, no, she looks like she's gonna go with your mom. And this whole time I was like, okay, like that's fine. I just had to ask, right? Like they may have laws where, you know, she can't go, I don't know. But then I questioned, like, well, what if my mom wasn't there? And she called 911, like, would she not be able to go with me? I don't know. It was this thing. So I was like, whatever, just go. So I'm going, and I'm realizing, like, my mom is driving right behind, following us to the hospital. And when we are driving there, I'm realizing that, like, we're stopped at this, like, stoplight. And I'm like, what the hell? And then it hit me that, like, I was in this ambulance, but they did not have their lights on or sirens. So I'm basically getting a ride to the hospital, and it's not getting me there any faster than, like, my mom driving me. So I had my phone, but it was, like, in my pocket. So I'm like, I could see my mom behind me, and I could see her on the phone. So I'm assuming she's like talking to my husband, right? And so we get to the hospital. They like basically send me to the very front of the emergency room, and I'm like triaged, and I'm checking in at the very front. So I'm like, what the heck? Like, I get this ambulance experience, and I don't get the sirens for my first ambulance, and I don't get the lights, and then I literally get sent to the front of, like, the emergency room. So anyway, I thanked them. But, like, in this mind, like, we as women, I feel like there's such a stigma thinking that we're, like, the weaker person, and, like, that was also part of it, right? Like, I'm still in this mindset, no one's gonna believe me, or they're not gonna be able to figure it out or something, and I'm just gonna be labeled as like crazy or overweight. That's another one that I've been, you know, oh, just lose some weight, whatever, you know. You just go through this like list of things that like you think people are gonna tell you, or at least I do. I don't want to say that's everybody, but so I'm like, oh my god. And my pain had gone significantly down. So then I really felt crazy, because I'm like, oh, I'm in the emergency room. I took an ambulance to the emergency room, and I'm not feeling the pain like I did, you know, 15 minutes ago. So they took me to a room immediately. My daughter was told that she had to leave. They could not put her back in an emergency room, adult emergency room area. So she left with my mom. They wouldn't even let her sit in the waiting room, which is coincidentally the same hallway as the pediatric emergency room. But they're like, no, she has to go. And I'm like, okay. So my husband was there. He got there really fast. So they take me back. The doctor comes in. He's the sweetest guy. And he's like, hey, you're in a lot of pain. Tell me what's going on. And at that point, the pain started to kick back in. And I'm like, literally doubled over. He's like, we need to get a CT. We need to get a urine sample. We need to figure out what's going on. But if I had to guess, like left flank pain is usually like related to kidneys. And he's like, I'm guessing you have a kidney stone. And I'm like, no way. Like, no way. So, but they wanted to check my urine. Well, I was barely able to give a sample because I literally just went to the bathroom thinking I had at home, like with cramps and stuff. So I'm like, well, I don't think I'm gonna be able to give you very much. And I already have trauma enough from like pee samples from when you're pregnant, whatever. And I'm like, so I gave them the tiniest sample of things. And then I had to get a ultrasound on my bladder to make sure nothing was blocked. And at that point I was again in so much pain again, and so the lady just like putting pressure down there was not comfortable, but she was so like sweet, and it was overall like she was amazing. I loved the nurse that was taking care of me. And so she moved along to we moved me to CT, which was an interesting experience because I'm like, hey, I'm diabetic, I have a sensor in my arm, do I need to take that out? And they're like, no, it'll just give like false readings, but like you should keep it in. And I'm like, okay. So then they're like, oh well, I told them, I'm like, well, I have a bra on, you know, like with a wire. And I'm like, is that okay? And they're like, oh yeah, it's fine. So they're like pushing me in, but mind you, like my hands are above my head. I had an IV, which they had to legit get a ultrasound of my arm to find a good vein to put the IV in. So it was like a whole other thing. And I felt so bad to this lady because I was in so much pain that I didn't want to sit still, but the nurse was like, you have to sit down, like you look like you're gonna pass out, and like I can't have you falling. And I'm like, but the pain is like where it hurts is like where you would sit and put pressure. She's like, I know, we're getting you pain meds, but like you have to sit down. And I'm like, okay, fine. So this lady, I'm like, oh my God, please hurry. I need to stand. I need to get up. I need to sit down. I need to like move my body. And like, she was freaking an angel. She worked like really fast, got the IV in. Anyway, so I'm at the CT, my hands are above my head. And then this lady's like, oh wait, like you need to pull your bra up. And I'm like, pull my bra up? I'm like, what do you mean pull my bra up? And she's like, you know, like pull it as high up as you can. And I'm like, all right, y'all, like I have extremely large breasts. Like I'm a plus size gal, and like, I'm like, pull my bra up. I'm like, okay. So I'm laying flat on my back. And so I pull my bra up, but like I have big bra cups. Like I'm a double D, or no, I'm a D. I don't know what it doesn't matter. I have big boobs, okay? And so I like pull my bra up, and like it's like in my face because it's just like sitting on top of my chest, and I have all the wires from these like machines that I'm hooked up to, and then I'm with my hands over my head, and I'm like, oh my God. Then they don't tell me anything. I have no idea what to expect. And so I'm like pushed into this machine, and then it's like, hold your breath. And I'm like, what? I have to hold my breath? I'm like, I'm in so much pain. So I hold my breath, I do the thing. They walk me back. I get like Toradol or something, and then that wasn't helping. So they actually gave me morphine. And I had this very full circle moment because I lost my dad when I was 12 to cancer. And for years, I always wondered if he was in pain when he died, because he was in the hospital, but he was not communicative. And I just remember like knowing that he was on morphine, and they kept telling me he's not going to feel anything. And so when they gave me morphine and my pain literally disappeared instantly, I had this like intense wave of emotion come over me, and I just felt so relieved that I finally knew that like my dad was not in pain. And I took that as like, my friend's like, oh, I think he was there with you. And like, I seriously truly believe that now. 25 years later, I can kind of have some peace over that, knowing that he was likely not in any kind of pain, because I knew I wasn't in any pain anymore. So ultrasound or CT came back, and they showed I did have a 2-millimeter kidney stone, but it was already passed into the ureter or whatever. So he thinks that like the worst of my pain should be behind me, as it's mostly when the stone ejects from the kidney and it like ricochets through your body that you get the most pain. So that's what happened. I had a kidney stone, but I also had a UTI. So I have like this double whammy. But this experience was like super traumatic, right? So now my daughter has extreme separation anxiety. Anytime we leave the house, she thinks I'm dying. She thinks that I'm gonna be in pain. She's always asking, she's hugging every single person in her house, like doesn't want them to even go on like a Zoom call. So it's really an emotional time. And it feels so silly to have taken an ambulance for a freaking kidney stone or UTI. But my mom was thinking, you know, holiday weekend, this ambulance is going to get her there faster than I can in traffic at 3 o'clock on a Friday before a big holiday. And so, because, you know, we live in like the Chicagoland area, and it didn't, but it's fine. Like, I'm okay. I have no idea if I passed it. But this was very traumatic all around, and I just want you to say that, like, this guy who I thought wasn't going to believe me and the pain that I was in, he absolutely 100% believed me, and he actually shared with me his experience with kidney stones, and he's like, this is why I gave you morphine. We almost always give morphine. He's like, because I know how much pain it is, and he goes, you were like doubled over, and it was causing you to like not breathe right. And I'm like, yeah, it was a lot. So I finally like felt very heard in a medical setting, whereas I've gone through so many doctors where I have not felt heard before. So it was kind of an all around like crazy experience for me, right? Because I had the whole thing with like my dad and like the pain, and I just wanted to come on here and like share that. Don't minimize your pain, and don't, like, someone will find you and listen to you and hear you, and you can be heard. Not everyone is like that, and I thought that was the case for a really long time. So I just want to put out there that it's not always like that. We as women need to speak up, and we are way stronger than this weak visual that's been given to us for decades and decades and centuries. But we are amazing. And yeah, I just wanted to share this experience, kind of give you a life update. I don't know what type of videos I'm gonna have out for you in the next coming weeks. I'm trying to just kind of rest and spend some time with my daughter for the summer and our break that we're on. So I just wanted to come on here and share that, and hope that I can, you know, be as vulnerable as I can on here, and that you can relate in some way, and hope that I make a difference for somebody, because yeah, it's important to me to be like advocating for women and for people who go through things that may be silent about. So anyways, leave me a comment. I'm always on Instagram as well. I'm happy to chat if you like go through any type of chronic pain and you need to feel heard or listened to, because I know how that is. Thankfully, this was not chronic that I went through for kidneys, but I do still have pain in other parts of my body for other things. So anyways, thanks for listening to me ramble and sharing my story, and I'll see you in my next video.